What is up, YouTube? I'm Devon DaVinci, leader of the Renaissance crew, and you are watching DaVinci Reacts. Today I have another, I wouldn't necessarily say geography related video, but more of a historical video. So this is a video that chronicles the history of China. It's an animated video. It was done by, I hope to goodness I get this name right. Sweebhini. I will have a link for their channel at the end of this video, so you can click on it, see how the name is spelled, and pronounce it yourself if you know the proper way to say it, or if you want to try to take a guess at what the proper way of saying it is, because I have no idea. This is part one. There's multiple parts to this video. I might split it into multiple videos, so I have one right. I have part one right now. I'll do part two sometime in the future. Try to have them released around the same, relatively close together. But either way, I will do a reaction to both videos, and I would encourage you guys to go check out the original content creator. Always show them support. If you haven't seen this video by now, there is a link in the description box that will take you to the original video. I encourage you guys to watch that first. Or if you don't feel like watching the video twice, what I would recommend is click the video in the description box to open it up in a new window or something. Put the video on mute, have it playing in the background while you're watching my video. By the time my video finishes, their video will finish as well, and you'll get both of us a view, so it supports both of us. I do have a Patreon channel that has exclusive content. If you want to join that, it's in the description box as well. Now, with that being said, let's check this out. History of China. I'm expecting this to be a very interesting video because China is one of the oldest civilizations on Earth. Let's go.
This episode is made possible by Audible. Go to audible.com/Sweeney or text Sweeney to 500-500 to get
Sweeney,
started
okay.
with a free audiobook and
Now
a
how it's spelled.
30-day free trial.
More like Sweebhini.
Nuwa and Fushi, usually depicted as half-human, half-dragon spirit creatures, created humans out of clay as companions.
That sounds like something a leader would tell their citizens to make them seem more divine. Are you sure these two people weren't dictators?
Humans settled in the Yellow River and were ruled by the
It's probably
five good emperors,
probably a
mythological figures who were peaceful and benevolent.
myth.
But tragedy
mythical
struck
story or
when the
something.
river flooded, devastating the land. Yu, the engineer, spent 13 long years building canals and locks to control the waters, earning his place as the land's king. He founded the Shah Dynasty, China's first ruling family, and a structure of government that would remain unchanged for millennia.
This channel has a lot of different countries that it animates the histories of. So if you want to check out more, again, check out their channel. I have a link for it at the end of my video. And if you got any countries that you want me to check out, then leave it in the comment section, and I might do that in the future.
In the words of John Green,
An open letter to the Shah Dynasty. Dear Shah Dynasty, why you gotta be so fictional?
yeah, the Shah Dynasty is largely considered mythological at this point, but may be intertwined with some real events, considering how much the later Chinese scholars wrote about them. Speaking of writing, the Chinese were really good at it. They developed their own famous pictograph-based system concurrently without any outside influences. But they looked a lot more like this than this. In any case, humans settled in the Yellow River Valley, forming numerous cultures which is collectively called the Yellow River Civilization. The myth of Yu the engineer likely began with this early civilization's attempts to control the flooding of the river. These settlers are what we now call the Han, although they didn't refer to themselves as that for at least a few centuries. They were
And again, that's where a majority of Chinese people get their ethnic name from, the Han Dynasty. Now, is Han Dynasty the official first civilization that in China, or? I mean, they talked about the what was it, the Shi Dynasty, but they said it's mythical. Is Han like the first confirmed one? Do they recognize that as the first one? I'm not really sure, but I'd like to know.
surrounded by numerous other peoples to their south, north, and west. The first Chinese state to be supported by historical evidence is the Shang. The story goes that the Shang were one of the member states of the Shah Dynasty and rose up to overthrow the last Shah emperor under their leader King Tang. Tang defeated the forces of the Shah during a storm at the Battle of Mingtao. The storm was seen as a sign that the spirits were blessing his overthrow of the dynasty. In 1046 BC, the Shang were overthrown by the Zhao.
It's interesting. You can take a non-connected sign like a storm and go either which way, because sometimes storms can be bad things, but sometimes it can be good things. It's kind of interesting that these signs always seem to go with the direction that you already wanted them to go. Like, he wouldn't have looked at that sign as, oh, it's a bad thing. No, this is obviously a good sign. It's funny how it always goes with the direction that you already have a narrative towards.
Which is China's
These
longest-lasting
superstitious
dynasty.
things.
It is speculated that the name for China in the Mandarin language comes from this period. The Zhao ruled the kingdom under a quasi-feudal system, meaning that power was given to regional warlords, all of whom pledged fealty to the king. This means that the king's power depends on keeping the lords happy, which King Yu did not. He exiled his wife, whom he had married for political reasons,
China breaks
and the
so
state
much.
she came from rose up in revolt. They deposed the king and installed his son Ping to the throne, but merely as a figurehead with no real authority, as regional warlords began crowning themselves kings over their own states. Chroniclers refer to this time as the period of spring and autumn. It doesn't translate well into English. Soon a rivalry would emerge among these states for control of all China, beginning the Warring States period, and a collapse of any centralized control. Warring became so fierce, in fact, that the local kings began building compacted earth fortifications on their mutual borders to deter invasions from rival states. Fighting ended in 221 BC when the Qin finally defeated the rest and unified China once more. The Qin dynasty didn't last very long, but they did have absolute authority. Agriculture and herding were regulated and everyone paid their taxes, but they did have a weird fear of books for some reason.
Again, anytime a civilization has a problem with books or anything related to knowledge, that is a sign that you're dealing with a possible dictatorship or a tyrant.
The teachings of Confucius became very popular, and his brand of philosophy began having huge impacts on Chinese society. In response to the growing power of the Xiongnu, the ancestors of the Mongols, Emperor Qin Shi Huang began joining parts of the Warring States' walls at strategic weak points in the border. This would be the first foundations of China's Great Wall. The walls continued to be expanded upon using hundreds and thousands of slave laborers and soldiers over successive centuries to protect the empire from...
I was trying to wait for him to finish talking before I started reading it. Contrary to popular belief, the Huns never attacked China. Westerners mistakenly confused the Xiongnu with the Huns, who had also originated from Central Asia. So the Xiong, I'm going to call them Xiong. So the Xiong were the ones that attacked China, not the Huns.
Of slave laborers and soldiers
so you mean to tell me Mulan was a lie?
Centuries to protect the empire from various other nomadic raiders. Qin Shi Huang became deranged and senile in his old age and became obsessed with finding a cure for death to allow him to attain immortality. He traveled far and wide and spent a small fortune on alchemy, medicines, and potions.
So he's the Dragon Emperor from the Mummy series.
The succession of the emperor caused a crisis when the nobles attempted to crown his son and control him as a puppet, causing the country to erupt into a civil war between rival states. The Han state was victorious, which began the rule of the Han Dynasty, famous for inventing paper, which is apparently what people used to write things on. During the Unification War, the rulers of the Yu state fled to the south in exile, where they set up their own kingdoms, the Nan Yu and the Min Yu, stretching all the way to modern Vietnam. The Han began a period of aggressive foreign policy under Emperor Wu, conquering both the Yu kingdoms in the south and going to war with the Xiongnu Confederation in the north, annexing vast amounts of the ethnic Turkic Tarim Basin. This extremely rapid expansion into Central Asia gave China its first contacts with the numerous nomadic tribes of the inner steppes, attracting many merchants to the lucrative corridor between east and west. It was the beginning of the Silk Road.
Yeah, it is.
It was during the Han that China experienced its golden age. Great strides were made in developing art, culture, and science that would come to shape almost everything we know about Oriental culture today.
But they don't have sexy
A new
time like
religion
Japan
making
did.
its way down the Silk Road began taking its own shape in the southwest. It is known to us as Buddhism. In the year 9, the Han Dynasty was briefly interrupted by a usurper named Wang Mang, who seized power from the Han in an attempt to establish his own dynasty, and he would have been successful were it not for his reforms to distribute land equally among the populace. He lost his territories in the west and was deposed by a mob after only 13 years of rule. I guess nobody told him it was way too early for China's communist revolution. The Han eventually defeated the Xiongnu after generations of fighting and expanded their trade with the West. They eventually split into 3 rival kingdoms in 222 and briefly reunited under the Jin Dynasty in 280, but the northern section rebelled against their rule by the so-called 5 barbarians, which the southerners called the 16 kingdoms.
See, like it's like no other country has like awesome names for periods in time or for locations as China does. What was the 5 barbarians?
Ruled by the so-called 5 barbarians.
Yeah, like, that's the 5 barbarians. You don't mess with the 5 barbarians. Like that's some awesome shit. That sounds like a movie. Like, it's like China was so far ahead of their time when it came to naming stuff that they were already finding proper ways to market themselves. They didn't, before movies even existed, they were doing stuff to promote themselves like a damn movie, or I guess a play. Did they have plays at this particular time?
280. But the northern section rebelled against their rule by the so-called 5 barbarians, which the southerners called the 16 kingdoms. But both the south and the north were unstable and changed ruling families too many times to name. The Sui came to power as successors to the Zhao state and unified China again in 589, while the Gokturks rose to power in the central steppes. The Tang succeeded the Sui and expanded the empire. They subjugated the Gokturks in the north, conquered the Koreans in Goryeo, and solidified their iron hold in Southwest Asia. Tang China spread its influence over all the rest of Asia in China's second golden age. They were famous for introducing land reforms called the Fubing system, which is again a flirtatious experiment with communism. I can see where this is going. The reforms were albeit successful, and the economic boom allowed for the budget of a standing army. If you're thinking to yourself that all this prosperity is too good to be true, then you'd be right. In 906, China collapsed again due to the power of regional warlords. The Song managed to control the southern part of China, but the north remained ruled by Chinese-influenced nomads. The Jurchens, a fringe tribe in modern-day Manchuria, rebelled against their nomad rulers and soon conquered all the way down to northern China. They proclaimed the Jin Dynasty and vied for power with the Song in the south. But as both kingdoms contended with each other, a new, powerful confederacy was brewing in the Mongolian steppes. The Mongols were initially a squabbling band of nomadic herdsmen. They had distant links to the Xiongnu of the past and made their home on the Eurasian steppe. Their culture was deeply steeped in tradition and a religion that tied them to their land. But this was all to change with one man named Temujin, who history remembers as Genghis Khan, a man who would reform the Mongols from within and unite them into a powerful confederacy bound by blood and honor, and create a legal framework and exceptional social mobility. The Mongols, under Genghis and his descendants, founded the largest land empire in history and would have impacts on nearly every part of Asia and even Europe. The story is told brilliantly in Jack Weatherford's Genghis Khan and the Making of the Modern World. Weatherford even narrated the book himself, which is available at today's sponsor, Audible. Audible has an unmatched selection of audiobooks and other audio products,
actually a great
perfect for long walks, exercising, commuting to work, or plane journeys and airport layovers, my personal preference. For history fans, this is one of the best ways to learn about something new you've always wondered about, or build on those gaps from your favorite topics and time periods. Just head to Audible on any device, download your book, and start listening. It's that easy. Audible is offering a free 30-day trial where you can get Weatherford's book or anything else at no charge, with seamless sync between your Amazon Kindle or Kindle app, by simply heading to audible.com/Sweeney or texting SUIBHNE to 500 which will also support the creation of more episodes. Thank you to Audible for supporting the channel. This is where we leave China today. Tune in next time for the next chapter, one that would bring both the Song and the Jin to their knees, when we cover the Mongols.
The Mongols!
And subscribe to never miss out on a new video.
Alright, so that's part 1. Like I said, part 2 is going to go further into it and probably reach into the modern age. So that'll cover like the communist revolution and things like that. One thing I picked up on was that, like I remember in the original Bill Wirtz History of the World video, they talked about China unifying and then breaking and then reunifying and breaking. And it didn't really go into detail about what was the cause of that. So I didn't really know what the purpose was, but based on what this says, it seems like it all centers from the country pretty much being run by warlords that had the influence of the king on top of them, or the emperor on top of them. But once those warlords didn't feel like the king had their best interest, or they just didn't have loyalty to the king anymore, they just like became their own country or territory. And that's what kept making them break. Whenever an emperor came in that they didn't agree with, they would just stop following them and pretty much become their own country. It makes me think, like, if there was some type of proper federal system on top of the warlords, would they have broken up? Like the United States, for example, is, while the states have their own unique powers, the federal government is still the overall binding decider, I guess. So it had me thinking for a second, like, I wonder if the United States would one day, because I'm trying to picture what the outcome of the United States government would be. And I was wondering, like, okay, what would be the downfall of America if it ever happened? And based on what this was doing, it made me think, like, I wonder if maybe the idea of like the states becoming their own countries. And I mean, obviously the Civil War happened, and that's what that war happened and everything else. But nah, I take that back. The federal government's military is way too strong now. It's not even close. Yeah, for a minute I was like, well, what if the states rebelled and this time they were able to win? I'm picturing that would be the down. I was like, no, the government's way too damn strong. It's not even close. Like, could you imagine a local group of people rebelling against the United States that represents their specific state and thinking they're going to win? Likely not going to happen. But with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I love watching videos that talk about the histories of countries and the origins of civilizations and things like that, especially the older civilizations. So like I said before with the Geography Now videos, the videos related to China, the videos related to Iran, the videos related to Egypt, like all those videos, in India, these are all videos that I love watching because you're talking about the very beginnings of human civilization. And like everything comes from those areas, or at least everything as far as, you know, as far as civilization building comes from those areas. So it's interesting to check out. Now, with that being said, I will check out part 2, and it will be released probably tomorrow or the day after tomorrow. I don't really know. But anyway, I hope you guys have a look out for it. But I'm Devon DaVinci. Hopefully just been a little bit more enlightened. I look forward to seeing you guys in a future video. I'm going to give you the deuces, and I'm signing out. Deuces.